Hello, I'm Marites Vitug, and this is Worldview, where we take a look at global, regional, and national affairs in conversations with officials, newsmakers, and analysts. Joining us is Vincent Chao, Head of International Affairs of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party in Taiwan. We will be talking about the recent elections where Vice President Lai Ching-te emerged the winner. Lai will assume office in May. Vincent, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with the DPP victory. This is unprecedented, the first time a party won for 3 consecutive times. Maybe you can tell us, to what would you attribute this success or this continuity?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's great to speak with friends from the Philippines. We are geographical neighbors in many senses, but we also countries that have democracy and freedom at the heart of everything we do. And so with that being said, of course, this was a very hard-fought election. As all election campaigns, or at least free ones are, the results were not preordained. And certainly we fought very hard right until the last minute in sharing our vision with the people of Taiwan. Now, the people of Taiwan, I think, ended up choosing the DPP, as you say, for an unprecedented third term for a simple reason, because we've had an effective record of governance. Over the past 8 years, President Tsai Ing-wen has increased our GDP by about over 30%, our minimum wage by about 40%. We've seen robust relationships with not only the United States, Japan, and other major democracies, but also with our very close friends and neighbors in Southeast Asia under the new southbound policy. We've continued to make progress, whether it's in terms of economic, trade, social, or pension-related issues. And I think ultimately the people of Taiwan recognize the DPP as a very effective government. Now, our presidential candidate, Lai Ching-te, now president-elect, has also put forward a very strong vision for Taiwan's future, which is inclusive of not only increasing our defense deterrence amidst the many challenges we face, but also in strengthening our economic resilience, our economic strength. We've put forward an agenda to ensure robust international partnerships, including with the Philippines and other Southeast Asian countries. And we've also committed to a very steady and stable cross-strait relationship. We're not here to upset the status quo. In fact, we're here to protect the status quo and to ensure democracy, peace, and prosperity here in the region.
So if you were to quantify it, or maybe it's difficult, but was it the economic domestic issues more than the China relation that dominated the campaign, or was it an equal balance between the two issues?
I would say it's an interesting question because, like the Philippines, Taiwan has a myriad of different issues that are being discussed in every election campaign. And certainly in this campaign, at least, we saw not only a focus on cross-strait defense and security, but also in terms of many social issues, including the high cost of housing here in Taiwan, stagnant wage growth, at least compared to increasing inflation and the cost of living. We've seen issues discussed ranging from education to strengthening our social welfare net. So, there are many, many different issues that go into this campaign, and it's hard for me to quantify how much each of these weigh because different segments of the population would have different emphasis on various issues. But I will say that as a responsible governing party and as a responsible candidate, we put forward a strong agenda on each of these priorities.
Yeah, the Taiwan People's Party got 20% of the vote, and I understand from reports that they had the youth on their side. It was mainly a youth vote. What does this tell you in the DPP? That the youth went to TPP, Taiwan People's Party?
Well, it tells us we have to work a lot harder, particularly in talking with the youth and putting forward agendas that I think match their priorities as well. But the fact is that the DPP in past elections has always had very strong support from the young people of Taiwan because our idea of enhancing, a Taiwan-based identity, on strengthening our self-defense capabilities, on building international partnerships, this has traditionally resonated very strongly with Taiwan's young people, particularly those that are born in an era where we call Tianrandu, which is that Taiwan is already a sovereign independent country. Formally we're called the Republic of China, but certainly we're not subordinate to the People's Republic of China in Beijing. So with that being said, however, we have been in government for a number of years, and there may be some fatigue associated with that. And so it's really up to us as the governing party to be able to show that we are ready, capable, and we have the determination to make progress on issues that affect our young people today.
Yeah. You said earlier that the incoming president will not upset the status quo because China called him a troublemaker, and they think that he will not continue what President Chai Ing-wen started. So, are they different in terms of styles, or will we see a continuity? Will Taiwan see a continuity?
In short, yes. But let me give a bit more nuance and detail into this. Taiwan, like the Philippines, has been grappling with the challenges of a very large authoritarian neighbor close by. And we see that in many senses, we haven't changed. I mean, Taiwan hasn't changed. We maintain our constitutional framework. We, strongly support the status quo. I mean, Taiwan over the past 8 years has engaged in a policy of no provocation against China, but neither are we going to back down from our principles and values. But nevertheless, we've seen tensions increase because ultimately the PRC's intentions have been clear, which is to annex Taiwan peacefully if possible, but by force if necessary. And everything they do is seen through that context. I mean, again, this is something that we're grappling with, but I believe that it is also something that countries around the region are grappling with, particularly, for example, in the South China Sea as well. When we see that, for democracies and the Philippines and Taiwan and many other countries, our position in the South China Sea has not changed, but China's has. And remember, for example, the PRC's, or Xi Jinping in particular's, promise to not militarize the South China Sea that he made to President Obama, about a decade ago. And that's gone completely out the window. And so, again, this idea is that we have to understand that we do live in a very challenging and complex geostrategic environment. And it's important for countries like Taiwan to ensure that we are the responsible and pragmatic stakeholder in this relationship, and that we will continue to maintain a status quo, have a steady course ahead, have a consistent cross-strait policy, and ensure that we can do everything we can to maintain peace and stability here in the Indo-Pacific region.
Yeah, I think one thing that has changed in Taiwan, I think you mentioned this in another conference, that more than 60%, or at least 60% of Taiwanese see themselves as Taiwanese, not Chinese. So this is one big thing going in favor of Taiwan. And this 60%, are they young? Are they all across age groups?
I think it's very much across age groups. And I mean, there are a number of polls that we look at here in Taiwan, and certainly this national identity poll that you have referenced is one of those important polls. But it's important also to recognize that this is a natural trend. This is not a trend that has been accelerated or even begin by a DPP being the Democratic Progressive Party being in government. I mean, I would point to, for example, this trend in Taiwanese identity growing very, very fast under former President Ma Ying-jeou of the KMT, the more Beijing-friendly administration here. And the growth in Taiwanese identity during his term in office is actually even faster than President Tsai Ing-wen over the past 8 years.
Why is that
so? This
so?
is,
yeah.
I mean, people have to understand that we are very proud of the fact that we have a free and open democracy here in Taiwan, that we're ranked as one of the freest countries in Asia, and that we have profound respect for human rights, the rule of law. I mean, all of these are values that define us and make us who we are. And it's unfortunate that we've seen, for example, that Beijing has been regressing in each of these areas in years past. And as a result, I think that has accentuated a sense of distinctness from the values that the regime in Beijing holds.
I think one of the challenges for the incoming administration is that DPP did not get a majority in the parliament. So this may cause a gridlock, especially you mentioned earlier about the defense spending. It might be blocked in the parliament. So how do you think will the incoming president, Lai Ching-te, navigate this?
Well, it's true. I mean, this is a reflection of democracy. The fact that we've won the presidency, but we've not been able to secure a majority in the legislature. And so The people of Taiwan have spoken and said that the road that the DPP is committed on, peace, democracy, prosperity, is the right road. But however, there needs to be a strong system of checks and balances in place in our legislature. So President-elect Lai, in his election night speech, made very clear that number one, we're going to work across party lines in terms of bringing in talented personnel, including cabinet appointments. The second component is we need robust dialogue with our opposition parties to find a viable agenda forward and to make progress, fast progress on issues that people have a high degree of consensus on. Number three is that we're going to need to be able to communicate effectively, even as we don't hold the majority, but we need to be able to communicate effectively to find what the Taiwanese people want to see in coming years. I mean, there is a number of points that President-elect Lai Ching-te has made, and that reflects overall desire to build a unity government, a consensus-based government that is driven by the political realities we face, but also driven by a need to make progress on many different issues that are challenging Taiwan.
What factors led to your losing the majority in the parliament?
Well, certainly, I've mentioned previously that we've been in government for 8 years, and that's and that includes control of the legislature, and so that's I guess a challenge in any democracy, which is how do you hold on to that? Because while you can make a lot of progress on different issues, no government is perfect, and certainly here in Taiwan, there has been rising public sentiment about the cost of housing, the cost of living, about salaries, about many different other issues. And I think we still overall did well in the legislature. I mean, obviously we didn't get the majority, but we still secured about 51 seats. And as a result, it still gives us a sizable presence there, and it gives us an ability, again, to work across party lines to achieve what the Taiwanese people want to see in coming years.
Yeah, I think for the final question, we're very interested in the subject of disinformation because Taiwan has been assaulted. You're the country which has received the most disinformation from a foreign actor. So how come it did not work this time? I mean, it never worked even in the past, but how come Taiwan was able to resist disinformation leading up to the elections and the DPP still performed quite well?
Well, I would say, success is a relative term. And I think I would almost argue against the premise that it didn't work because we can assume that any disinformation anywhere in the world, if used in a prevalent way, has some sort of effect in our society. And I recognize that if, for example, this did not work full stop, then we would probably see it stop. But the fact is that we see it more and more intense in every single election. So it shows that at least the people perpetrating these actions have believe that this does have an effect. Now, we are seen commonly internationally as ground zero for disinformation. There are similar cultural characteristics, language characteristics that we share between Taiwan and, of course, the PRC. And as a result, particularly with the advent of AI, deepfakes, and other technologies, this has given them free rein in terms of spreading disinformation in our society that is designed to undermine institutions, to degrade trust in government, and to polarize and divide our society. And so throughout past years, what we've continued to do is engage in media literacy, to build up strong NGOs that are independent of government, but are able to engage in effective fact-checking, to build up more mature public debate about various issues, particularly in an election period. Now, no method is perfect, and I would say that Taiwan's response is far, far, far from perfect. But we've made progress, and we think that gives us a foundation to share these experiences with other democracies that may be facing similar challenges, both in the region and around the world.
Yeah, maybe one just last question. I'm just interested, will you play a new role? A role in this new government? I mean, you're so young, Vincent. I know you're head of international affairs, but will you take on more under incoming President Lai?
See, always the tough questions from the international press. But no, because I'm a elected member of the Taipei City Council. So I'm very happy to be able to represent my constituents very effectively. And I was happy to participate in a democratic exercise in this election. But nevertheless, I do have a very important full-time job to get back to. So I was happy to have volunteered and also happy to be able to more effectively concentrate on my city council role now.
Thank you so much, Vincent, and we look forward to staying in touch and maybe talk to you again in the future. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. And thank you to our viewers as well. And this has been Worldview with Marites Vitug. Till next time.